I'm just going to say this once. If you haven't, please subscribe. When it comes to powered paragliding videos and the social media side of powered paragliding, there seems to be something magical happening in the state of North Carolina. All of the folks from this state producing videos on the subject are very likable people. Their North Carolina Facebook presence is an open invitation to just about anybody that's interested in the sport. I highly recommend it if you're not a Facebook user. Well, I decided to go visit one of these legends. A man who needs no introduction. A man who really can't be introduced because he's got more aliases than Marshall Mathers.
70 feet, 50 feet, he's motor off, he's out of the harness, and he's coming right in for a little bit of a swoop. I got on long pants. Tony froze in shorts tonight, so.
Oh, we rolling?
Yeah.
Hey, YouTubes and interwebs.
Well, Tony was nice enough to take me out to a couple of his local flying spots. He had a pretty good understanding of the local climate and the rules and the expectations of the landowners, and invited me to fly with him for an evening. I learned a little bit. I think Tony learned a little bit. I got some pretty good video of him that helped him make some improvements to his landing timing. And one of our debriefings after the flight, we talked a little bit about glide slope manipulation. And that's pretty much the topic of this video, is what can be done to change your glide angle.
And you don't want to go around, you don't want to do it again. We all know you can S-turn, and that bleeds off a little bit of LD. How comfortable are you with pulling brakes to set up a steeper rate of descent?
I do that.
You do?
Yeah. I'll pull, I don't go by inches, because it all depends on the weather.
Pressure.
But I'll pull maybe on a 0 to 10 scale of pressure, I'll pull 3 or 4. And it will suddenly start to...
Plus, too, when you let off, you get that forward surge. And
yeah, but I let off slow.
Easily.
Because I don't want it to do this, and then I got that pendulum thing. Now, I would have done that in the beginning. But yeah, I just ease it back up. The wing comes forward a little bit, gives me a little energy.
Well, most of what I know about manipulating or modifying glide slope comes from a fixed wing aviation background, where oftentimes there's electronic guidance that tells you whether or not you're high or low relative to a touchdown point. In a paraglider, it's pretty much a visual process. So, if you think of a funnel, there's lots of entry points at the top of the funnel, and they all get refined to a very narrow point at the exit of the funnel. And that exit at the funnel, in our case, is the touchdown point. So a little later in the video, we'll talk about some techniques that I've learned to help modify and become more familiar with a glide slope that I refer to as the baseline, or the standard glide slope. I haven't really heard much about ways to become familiar with the flying characteristics of your glider in a way that I'm going to present it. So my plan for myself is to build a very familiar, repeatable glide slope that can be modified with the techniques of increasing drag or decreasing drag. And that's what Tony and I talked a little bit about after we flew. Here's the only known air-to-air video of me flying. Thanks for trying, Tony.
Yep. But I see a path. possible. I'm way below you.
Watching and then editing this video gives me a real good idea of what I'm going to do for my next topical video. I'm going to bring in my neighbor as a subject matter expert. He's an F-16 pilot. We're going to have a long discussion about how to brief and then properly go out and fly, formation flying.
Now you're going to get my weight.
So now, back to our discussion on glide slope management. Messed around in one of the bigger fields that he flies from, and I got to put some of this to practice, and actually floated and went much further than I had intended to, almost colliding with that tractor and the tines of that hay rake that you saw at the beginning of the video. I don't think that would have been too healthy for the paraglider. So fast forward to the end of our flight. Right about here I'm on what most fixed-wing pilots would refer to as left base for the touchdown zone. I would like to say that I'm pretty familiar with the glide characteristics of my glider. Power off, from here I could easily make the field. But I wasn't counting on what was about to happen next, and it's happened to me before. As I make the turn to final here, I'm directly into the wind, and there's a bit of a pressure ridge right at this tree line, which keeps me up higher. Here I should have been holding some brakes, but I chose to let the glider reaccelerate. The tree line lift gave me just enough lift or stop my descent to make my landing be long.
Yeah, when I ran it out, I missed it by about 6 inches. I float a lot on that wing. But you know what? It's 3-to-1 right to the top of the trees to where I'm standing.
What I'm referring to here is a 3-to-1 glide ratio. It should be really familiar territory for any transitioning fixed-wing pilot. It's pretty much the glide ratio that you can expect on final approach in just about any aircraft that you might be coming from that you've flown in the past. It's pretty much the design philosophy behind most airports when they talk about clearways and cutting down trees and insisting that cell towers don't get built too close to airports.
Yeah, much better angle than I had. I came right over the trees straight my way.
What you're thinking right now, you're saying, but my glider manual says that I can achieve glides of 9.5 or 10-to-1. It's right in the manual. What you have to understand is those glide ratios are determined by very low drag pilots flying pods and using minimal input in perfect weather conditions. All sorts of things decrease your glide ratio. Everything from turbulence to you standing up in the harness, you increase your body frontal mass, and that's one of the tools that you can use to steepen your glide slope. Into a headwind certainly steepens your glide slope, pulling brakes like we talked about. Then there's techniques that can extend your glide. They start with maintaining a low drag profile, minimal brake input, or what your manual suggests for maximum glide. It's usually somewhere around neutral trims and just a small amount of brake input or none at all.
That was a hoot.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Chilling.
I mean, for us old self-trained guys.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? Hey, landing on my feet, Great landing.
Yep.
Get to fly again.
Heck yeah. And I'm here to tell you that hay rake would have done a number to my wing. So, glad we didn't go there. And that